For the first time publicly, we're finally able to take a look at Chrono Odyssey, the mysterious action MMORPG from the original parent studio NPIXEL to the newly transitioned over to dedicated team Chrono Studio. We've all been seeing tiny pieces of this game for years now and have had more questions than answers along the way, because you never know until you play it for yourself, right? They are touting themselves as a next-gen seamless open-world MMO built on Unreal Engine 5 with time manipulation and extensive customization that will be launching on PC and console in theory sometime later this year based on Kakao's public financial report. A small group of content creators were allowed into this pre-beta version that differs slightly to the public closed beta version that all of you have the opportunity to join and experience for yourself from June 20th to June 22nd, to which you simply need to request access for over on Steam and get accepted. Good luck, guys. And before some of you go, you're sponsored. No, I was not. We legally have to disclose when we are. So I'm just going to throw that out there because I'm getting tired of seeing you guys in the comments being like, you're sponsored. No, I have to say when I'm sponsored. If I say I'm sponsored, I'm sponsored. I'm not sponsored for this. This is my true, unadulterated commentary on what I think this game is, okay? They just set us loose in this environment and said, if you like it, cool. If not, then we don't need to communicate further. Basically, we would break up. So before we get into it, this is a pre-beta version and therefore is not the final and completed version of the game. Everything I state in this video is hopefully constructive criticism, but also a means of allowing you all to see if this game is for you, because no matter what, the beta is the more completed framework for the game and will generally be what we get, give or take some changes, but most likely not major overhauls. I have personally been watching this game for a long time and have stated on more than one occasion this game is generally my last hope for the MMORPG genre, because it'll be years before we get something else in the genre that has the capacity to be great unless an indie studio flies out of nowhere. Granted, there are still some MMORPGs I am looking for, but they don't really have like that true MMORPG aspect. They're more like co-op games, but I digress. And before we start, I will state my graphics were on Epic for every single setting. And I have an RTX 4090 and this is an Unreal Engine 5. So let's discover together, is this game a wishlist ad or a wishlist nah? Because one of the beautiful things about games is there's one for everyone, and my hope is to find every gamer a newly found virtual home. So fingers crossed for you. When entering into the game, you'll be presented with 6 classes. Unfortunately, at present, we'll only have access to 3 classes, as the other classes will be available at launch, as per what the thing is telling me. The first class is Swordsman, which of course I picked because it's great for offensive and defense and utilizes great swords, sword and shields, and dual blades. The next is Ranger, which if you're afraid of being in the thick of it might be for you, as it only has one close combat weapon, which is the rapier, with 2 ranged options of bow and crossbow, and I'd highly suggest being great at aiming because headshots do seem to account for more damage. I wouldn't tested this myself. For my healer buddies, I see you, boo-boo. There's a class for you, the Paladin. They can do just as much damage as they can do healing, with the ability to shield you from incoming owies. They make use of lances, halberds, and maces to the faces. This class can't be played yet, but you best bet I'm eyeballing it for the future. The final of the 3 classes that can be played for the test phase besides Swordsman and Ranger is Berserker, which sticks went. Their main job is to bring the pain with chain blades, twin axes, or battle axes. Nextly is the Assassin class, who we all know are stealthy little guys that'll probably wreck us in PvP because they'll pop out of nowhere. They use sabers, wrist blades, and muskets. And lastly, Sorcerer, another healer and damage dealer who uses magic to tame the battlefield with either staffs, mana spheres, or grimoires. And I know you guys are leaning forward going, wait a minute, are these gender-locked classes? And the answer is no. You'll have the liberty to change their genders and appearances as you please. The character creator is pretty decent. You should expect to see a full character creator video from me soon. Now, for what you're actually here for though, the combat and how it plays. Combat is completely destructive, button smashing, arm numbing action. Every class is unique, has their own utility and purpose, with Chrono Odyssey providing a lot of class identity and customization through the use of 2 toggleable weapon combinations. A total of 4 skills per weapon selection, and a weapon mastery system that allows you to dive deeply into a build that largely suits your personal playstyle. Let me elaborate a little on this one. Each class has the option to wield only 2 weapon types out of 3 options each class has that you'll swap between at any given time, and each weapon ability has a cooldown but also a charge to use. Some classes use Fury, Vigor, or Mana, and this basically means you need to deal damage to garner the fuel to use the ability. The combat in itself is very simple, but simple isn't bad. Simple doesn't mean that it inhibits you or lacks depth. You equip a total of 4 skills per weapon, with 8 skills in total. Passive skills are available for you to invest in, increasing the viability of each weapon type separately. Weapons have their own resource, an example being Rage for both Mai and Styx classes. You expand this resource to use a skill with added cooldowns being imposed as an additive to resource consumption, making sure you're never spamming abilities too frequently. You have both your left mouse button, your basic attack, and then a special set to your right mouse button. A functional dodge and parry system exists, which is where I think the game both excels and falls short. Let me elaborate on why this is. Since both dodges and parries exist, it makes the combat far more skill and timing dependent. At dodging, you likely won't encounter many obstacles you can't overcome. If you're good at dodging, you'll cheese through the content with little to no effort. But if you're not, like me, and you're more experienced in games like WoW and Final Fantasy XIV, which are more visually indicative telegraphs and a quick trot out of the way, and more learning the different stages of an encounter rather than timing your dodge or parry at the correct time, you may feel overwhelmed. Granted, these fights are somewhat scripted as well, and I'm really bad at dodging and parrying, but around 40 minutes, I cleared the first boss after learning his movements enough to kill him so I could move on with the story. There's also blocking in the game, but as far as I can tell, it's only the sword and shield, which kind of checks out because the shield is a blocking. I don't foresee a bow or a rapier being able to block, but you know, that's just something to consider. Not everyone can block, which is kind of cool. This game isn't easy right out the gate and probably isn't for the super casual gamers, because to make that boss fight easier, I could have just gone out into the world and leveled myself up some more, geared up some more, and then come back. But I don't know if the casual gamer would feel the need or desire to do that. But that is something in there to consider if you are looking at this game. As an addendum, having every class rely on dodges or parries, making them self-sufficient, reduces the importance of the Holy Trinity, tank, healer, and DPS. This isn't inherently bad, but when every class sits there spamming 4 buttons, dodging incoming attacks, and spamming 4 buttons again in repetition without fear, it tends to get a little tedious. Some people might enjoy this, especially if you like Souls-like, but I come from a rating history in both Final Fantasy XIV and WoW. I'm sitting here with 5 rows of hotbars, dozens of skills, offensive and defensive and support potions, food items, elixirs to boost damage in short intervals for the exact moment you need to boost, where every cooldown needs to be calculated with a purpose, since using the wrong skill at the wrong time can mean the entire raid is wiped. 4 buttons and a dodge kind of trivializes content encounters, but maybe in-game raids will be different, as the beta test was incredibly limited in terms of content levels and potential to test. However, now that I'm thinking of it, parrying might not be the same for every class. For instance, my parrying on the swordsman was only on my sword and shield, so out of the 3 weapons, only one of them can parry, and it was on my right click, so I could use it over and over again. It was really hard to time, as the telegraphing isn't that well fleshed out, in my opinion. And Then I went Ranger to see how that played, and it seems to have a parry ability, but it's actually tied to an ability with a cooldown on the rapier. It was an easy parry though, as you hold up your rapier for a few minutes, and if it gets hit, it activates the parry. So I assume depending on your weapon choice, you may not actually have the ability to parry or even parry in the same way. Tab targeting does not exist in the game, but there is an option to lock your camera onto a target, providing a type of aim assist, which can be very useful for those of us that struggle to hit a moving target, like me. Combat is both simple and rewarding, but also limiting and tedious in a way. It's both represented and implemented. Overall, it felt okay, but definitely needs some work. But they are right on the cusp of great feeling combat that a lot of action combat lovers will enjoy. I will give Chrono Odyssey credit. There are additional elements to the combat beyond the 8-button split between the two weapons that add an additional layer of depth. Take your Chronotator and its ridiculous utility, for example. Temporal isolation allows you to freeze time, including general enemies for a bit, but it does not work on bosses. Trust me, I tried. I died. Time reversal then allows you to reverse your character back to a previous point in time. So you hit the button for a reversal and it begins the process of allowing you to move to a new location, to which then you hit your button again and you reverse back to the original spot you hit your button at. This would work well for dodging and avoiding larger AoEs, I suppose, but it only affects your character. I happen to only get the skill at the end of pretty much all of the content that there was to do at the game, so I didn't really get to try this out too much. I just kind of dabbled in it once or twice. It felt cool. Temporal resistance allows you to essentially glide for a period of time and then negates fall damage. Just be careful because when it wears off, well, yeah. The Chronotator also allows you to summon bosses you killed in the Chrono Gates, which are single-player difficult boss fights. Although Styx and I did participate in one of these together, cheesing through the boss, that was a bug. You're only supposed to do this by yourself, but hey, it was fun to do it with somebody else. And finally, temporal tuning highlights objects and traces of the past, like footprints. Beyond the Chronotator, your class also comes with mastery skills at level 10, 15, and 20, at least for the test phase. I'm sure more hopefully will come as we obtain more levels. You will also garner weapon mastery points, and here is where you'll need to choose wisely. As you know, you only have 4 skill slots per weapon, and as you can see, the skill tree for each weapon is decently sized, providing you more than just 4 skills to select from. You can reset these skills, but the only way to garner these mastery points is to use the weapon in combat it is tied to specifically for that weapon. This allows you to build something that's more suited to you and your situation. As I mentioned, you will have 3 weapon types your class can use, but only 2 can be used at a time. Try to determine which 2 weapons you have an affinity for early on, because you'll most likely need to go back and grind that 3rd type if you decide you want to use that one instead. Not only do your weapon skills level up by using them, but you also have character levels that directly increase your stats. Another method of increasing your power is by wearing gear, because your equipment number matters for entering into dungeons. Gearing can be done in one of 2 ways in this game, which I enjoy: by questing or by crafting. Crafting seems to allow you to create the more catered build of your desires, while questing could willy-nilly throw things at you, including a weapon you're not skilled up to use. It could even give you an armor type you can't fully utilize, like light armor, heavy armor, or medium armor. So I'd recommend venturing into crafting for those more solid builds of your dreams. Higher tier gear such as blue and beyond also seems to have gem slots, although I'm not sure where the gems come from. I couldn't find any place to craft them at in the beta. So if anybody finds that out in the beta test, please feel free to message me or tell me in the comments below, because I will probably need that because I want to play this again. The only thing I see is the gem slot, so I know they exist, I just don't know where. Gear that you craft or even collect in the open world has a chance of having different attributes. It seems when you're crafting, it's a little bit RNG as to what attributes will be added to your gear, but those attributes can actually be transferred to another gear set. You can enhance your gear or even disassemble it to receive some of the materials back. This leads me into life skills. In the game, you'll be fishing, mining, logging, butchering, gathering, and cooking. All these life skills allow you to take what you've gathered and craft gear, potions, food, or weapons. What does bother me a tiny bit is that life skills can't be done together. If I'm chopping a tree, I'm the only one that gets it if Styx joins me after. It doesn't make it faster. Butchering animals seems to be shared if you do it at the same time, but everything else not shared or sped up if you do it together. It's a little time consuming, but also very much so gives me New World vibes, and this is what I've heard a lot from those around me say it reminds them of. Honestly, the game felt like New World and Alien had a baby. A mixture of Western MMO with Korean MMO. Once we started getting the idea of where various resources were on the map, we began marking them and using the teleports to go back and grind out the materials we needed to craft. Traversing the world was, as advertised by them, seamless and unrestricted. Thank you for actually being this Chrono Odyssey. See that mountain over there? Go and climb it. See that ocean? Go and swim in it. The only thing really limiting us at this juncture is this giant blue wall that pops up where you're supposed to not go yet because this is the test phase. I love that I can just go. Total freedom feels nice in an MMO like this. You'll be traversing the world mostly by foot until roughly level 13-ish. After the third Chrono Gate, when you finally unlock the ability to freeze time with your Chronotator and capture a horse through a random quest that you find just by venturing in the world. It does not seem that you can just go out and tame any old horse with this, but I'd love to see that implemented. You can also outright buy a horse with in-game currency at a decently hefty price for early game. It's like 100k. Unlocking teleports out in the world will also be an important method of traversal. The world itself is dense with things to do and see. There's little jumping puzzles, random dynamic side quests that you get roped into, area events, bounty hunts, world bosses, and a variety of enemies, animals, and of course various discoverable areas to gather different resources. Instance things to do include the Chrono Gates, aka the solo boss fights, solo and party mini dungeons of either the labyrinth style or combat style, vaults, which aren't implemented in the test phases at this juncture, so I don't know what they are. I'm sorry. Trials, which are solo events where you'll face 4 different challenges for rewards, and we know in the future there will be raids. There will also be open world PvP, but from what we've been told, it'll be optional. You don't have to do it unless you want to. You can toggle PvP mode on and off, just like I'm showing here. After running the time portal dungeons a few times, it would seem that the dungeons are procedurally generated. They changed just a little bit each time I went in, but generally were the same thing, just objectives were in slightly different areas. I'd love to see more varieties in these dungeons if they're going to be procedurally generated. Use that, spice it up, make it interesting each time, but it is just ever so slightly different each time, not like new. I needed something fresh. I hope they add in more. Also, the time portal dungeons, aka the mini dungeons you run for gear, mats, and resources, do have a limit on them, and that's based on how many keys you have. The keys seem to drop from smaller named area bosses, but it was a little hard for me to determine this in the limited 2-day period I had to play to confirm this for myself because I had work to do. So, I was rushing through this. The party system is also a little jank. You'll need to form a party that is publicly listed and people can join. However, you can restrict who gets to join, but it is a little bit annoying to set that up as opposed to just walking up to your friend or sending them an invite via the friends list to do a duo party or trio party. There are also guilds in the game, but I'm not quite sure what their purpose is yet beyond having folks to communicate with and party with, and that may be it, but I don't know if there's going to be more to guilds later on. As for the story, well, I have some news. There is a story present. It's there. You can tell it has one. But if you're looking for an MMO with a great story that grips you, enthralls you, and captivates you, and leaves you with a sense of wonder of what happens next, I'm really not sure this is the one for you, unless you take it back to the drawing board and work on it, or, well, maybe it gets super in-depth later on. This is not that deep. Essentially, only one character is voiced at this juncture. I'm sure they will do more, but you're kind of thrust into the situation with very little elaboration. You're just kind of there. Some things don't really make sense either, as Vela, our main squeeze girl with the pretty blonde hair, tells us to go talk to the other sentinels at the table, and they should be able to answer our questions, and all they do is proceed to just not do that. After you're thrust out of the Citadel, where you've joined in on the fight against the Void from taking over the 12 worlds, or in specifically our world, you're really not given much else beyond that. The story kind of goes, go to the next Chrono Gate and find it, but we don't know where it is, which I enjoy. I do like the exploration thing. And then do the thing, kill the guy there, and go on to the next one. There's a beauty in the freedom to just explore and enjoy your time, but the story really is not that deep. I'd say it's fairly close to New World's kind of storytelling. You get notes, and I'm not sure if it tells us more, but I'm really not going to go through and find the notes and read them all for more detailed lore. I am not that invested because you didn't capture me at the start of the game with the story. And if we're honest here, you guys skip the story in the games anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I don't think so. But I know my Final Fantasy 14 people are in here holding an empty cup asking for a story. I'm sorry, honey bunches of oats. You'll be better off sticking to your RPGs or Final Fantasy. Sorry, boo-boos. Also, the questing system is a little confusing. Like when I got out of the original tutorial area, it told me to go somewhere, and I was like, I don't really see a quest indicator. I didn't realize it would be like this, but then I looked at the top with kind of the compass, and I realized there was a dot pointing me in the right direction. So then I followed the compass, and it took me to where I needed to be. But, you know, most of the questing, like going to the Chrono Gates, which you're supposed to discover because it is a very open, discoverable world, is not exactly going to be indicated on that compass because you're meant to explore. So I know a lot of people may find frustration with that, which I understand, but it is there and it is enjoyable for a lot of people. But if you're looking for the more complex, interesting story, this probably isn't it. Nextly, I have to address what I know you're all looking at in general, the graphics. As I mentioned, I have an RTX 4090 and a computer that could probably run NASA. This game is built on Unreal Engine 5, and boy, does it need work. The lighting is extremely off. Sometimes I'm in a rave. Sometimes life is super green, and sometimes I look at my character in the gear screen and click out in the in-game world and just sigh. My girl looks so cute in the gear screens, but so potato in the world. They're aware of these issues, but listen, it's Unreal 5. I have hope that it ends up looking better than this. Even the cutscenes run at maybe 30 frames per second, it feels like. Long story short, this probably needs more work. We're all graphic snobs in this genre. I know you understand where I'm coming from. I think if they just fix the lighting and potentially make the graphics look a little bit better, that will fix that issue for me. Like some things look really cool from far away, and then you get closer and you're like, maybe not. This is probably the harshest criticism I have for the game. So, I mean, that's really not a bad criticism because they can fix this. I have faith that this can be fixed. If you're going to be on Unreal Engine 5, do it, but do it well. Also, I can't speak on the pay-to-win situation as we don't have access to the shop and the playtest, but they have stated that there will be no pay-to-win, but only cosmetics, costumes, and potential battle pass. What we deem as pay-to-win might be different. There may be pay for conveniences. There may be stats on the costumes. We don't know. Until the game launches, we're all going to speculate what could be at this juncture. They say no pay-to-win or anything that will make the gameplay unbalanced. So we shall have to wait and put faith in them. And quite frankly, at this juncture in the MMO genre, I just want a fun game. And as long as I'm not forced into open world PvP versus someone who is paid to be stronger than me, I don't care. Bring it. Overall, I'd say Chrono Odyssey is probably one to watch for gamers that love a nice challenge with action combat. I have hopes they will listen to player feedback after the beta test goes live in a few days, because I think what you guys say matters infinitely more than what I say and think, because you guys are the ones that are coming in and playing this game and wanting to love it as much as I do, but what I have in my mind may not be what the masses want. I don't speak for a lot of people. I just speak for myself. And this is why I think it's important you guys go sign up for this test and say what you want to say. The game will be nice for not only the solo gamer, but also the party gamer as well. There's a little something for everyone to enjoy in this. For me, I'll be playing this game again because at the very end, after hitting level 15 after 2 days, I felt pleased with my time. If they do adjust some of the major issues, I will be delighted to play this game at launch. I just don't really see how it could launch this year and not be a buggy, flickery mess, but we shall see. I hope they work on it. That is my hope for them, because I think this could be good. But a lot of people aren't going to give second chances, so first impressions are everything. And I hope you guys get to try it and give feedback, and I hope you find a game that you enjoy, and maybe it's this one. Anyway, this was Mrs. Sticks, logging off for now. Bye!